What's up guys, it's Josh back with another video, and today I want to show you guys how to set up your own open source learning platform using Moodle and Ubuntu. So I thought this would be an interesting video to show you guys because I've heard of Moodle before. And this was a couple years back where I was looking for some applications that I could show you guys how to actually set up on Ubuntu. Well, after that, I noticed that my kids were actually using an application for school since they go to school online. And they would always talk about Moodle. We have to log into Moodle to do some assignments or whatever. And I didn't put two and two together, but once I started looking into Moodle again, I noticed that it was the exact same application, which is super cool. This is an open source application that my kids use in middle school and high school that is basically a learning management system. And it's all open source. And I wanted to go on and show you guys how to set up your own server using Moodle. And it's a very simple process. I'll be installing it on Ubuntu. It doesn't take too long to install. It's actually one of the easier installations I can walk you guys through. But this is super interesting for businesses that are trying to set up their own learning platform for their employees. You can put courses on there and manage everything from this system. And it's a very dope application. And I think it will appeal to people that want to set up their own small school, because working in the IT field, you're constantly learning. And this application can be used for people that have the gift to teach people by creating and managing their own learning platform to make things easier so you can interact with your students. So let's go over to the Moodle website so I can show you guys a little bit more about it before we get to the install. Okay, cool. So this is moodle.org, and this is where you can actually get the application from. I believe it can be installed on other platforms. I haven't looked into it. Let's actually look at it now, but there's a download for it. Let's see what we got here. Let's see, Moodle. And yes, it can be installed on Mac OS as well as Windows. And then they also have a Tor file for Linux. But let's go back to the main page right fast, because I wanted to kind of read a little bit about what it's about. It says getting started is easy. Moodle is the world's most popular learning management system. Start creating your online learning site in minutes. So this thing is super powerful, and as I'm noticing, it's being used by a lot of different companies, a lot of different schools. They're implementing this to schools right now, or have been in schools for a good amount of time. And if you want to read a little bit more about it, they have a lot of information on there. But back to the downloads page, what it states, they do have a lot of extensions for it. So a lot of plugins and everything that can help you set this thing up, because when you set it up, it's going to be bare bones, and you have to go through and add all your images, your logos, all that information into the actual site, and start creating your courses and all that stuff. But the platform, the base level platform, will be set up for you so you can start working on it. And then it also has a Moodle mobile app, and so that's available on Android and iOS. So there's a lot of development behind this actual application, and that's why I kind of wanted to show you guys this. And if you want to look at the demos, they do have a demo, but the documentation is very helpful. I actually used it to come up with this tutorial by building out the outline of actually installing the latest version of Moodle on Ubuntu 20.04. And I'll go down and drop my method down in the description of the video. And while we're on that subject, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome, and just go down and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so you get all the updates when my new videos drop. But I definitely appreciate you guys coming through. It's always good to have new people come to the channel and see what I'm doing and how I can actually help you learn how to use Linux. So let's go over and head over to the terminal so we can get started with the install. Okay, cool. So I'm logged into my virtual machine, and this is in the cloud. I'm using Linode for this demonstration, and I'm SSH'd into the server. And this is a fresh install of Ubuntu 20.04. And so the first thing you want to do whenever you set up a server, no matter which one it is, no matter what distro, you want to update the server. So I'm finna run the commands to update it right fast. So basically all we have to do is type sudo apps updates, and then I always run them together, or I sometimes run them together, but like in tandem or whatever. But I use the ampersand sudo apps upgrade, and that'll basically run the upgrade command after it successfully runs the update command. So anytime you put that ampersand, that's what that will actually do. And I'm gonna put the -y in there because I'm sure it's gonna have some updates on the system. So that'll automatically say yes when it asks you if you want these packages installed, because I do want those packages installed. So I'll be back when this actually finishes. It shouldn't take too long. It's only a couple packages, but we'll run right through that. Okay, so we're done with the updates, and the next thing we want to do is basically set up the server for Moodle. And really the prerequisite for Moodle is a LAMP stack. So that stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So I'm gonna install all those packages now. I already have them listed out like in a text file, so I'm gonna just copy and paste them in. And then I'll reboot the server. And the reason I'm gonna reboot the server because that was a good amount of updates, and I just want to make sure everything is in line once we install all these applications and the server is up and running with the latest packages and everything. So like I stated, this was installing Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and a few modules. And then I'll also do the dependencies for PHP. It's a lot of dependencies that can be installed for PHP that you need to install Moodle, and I'll show you guys these, but they'll all be listed down in the description of the video, each one of the commands that I run. Okay, cool. So we have all our packages for the LAMP stack installed, and now let's do the dependencies. And like I said, I'm gonna reboot the server, so it shouldn't take too long either. It's only, these packages are pretty small. As you can see, it's kind of going pretty fast. It's unpacking them and then creating and installing the applications on the server and setting it all up. All right, cool. So let's go down and reboot the server, and I recommend you guys do that as well if you're at this step. So just run a sudo reboot. You can type now. I don't think you have to do it, but I'm so used to typing shutdown -or now. Using the shutdown command, you have to type now in order for it to process right away, but that'll reboot the server. And then once it comes back up, we'll log back in and continue the installation. Okay, cool. So our server is back up. I log back into it SSH, and just to do a quick check, I'm gonna go down and test out to make sure Apache is running on the server. And the simple way to do this is actually to just type in the IP address. So I'm gonna put in the IP address right fast, and there we go. So this server is up and running, in the cloud using that IP address. So let's go and switch back to the terminal and install Moodle. Okay, cool. So let's actually cd to our opt directory, and this is where we'll actually download the git package for Moodle. So let's go opt, press enter. That'll cd to that directory, and then we have to use sudo. I'm gonna grab the link right fast, but sudo git clone. And before I press enter, I'll show you guys the command, but sudo git clone and then the git link address, and let's press enter, and that will download a copy of Moodle from the git repository. All right, cool. So the repository has been cloned down, so let's cd into the Moodle directory right fast. So let's press enter, boom. And one thing we need to do, we need to tell git to actually track the correct branch of Moodle, and it's basically the most stable version we want to track. So in order to be able to list out the branches, we could type sudo git and then branch and then -a, and that'll list them all out. And what we're looking for is the most stable version, which is 39. That's the one we want to actually use. So right here, that's the branch we want to track. So I'm press Q to get back to the terminal so we can actually track that branch. And I just paste it in there so you guys can kind of see exactly what I'm doing. But basically all you're doing is putting the name of the branch that you want to track, which we want to track Moodle 39 stable, which is good. So let's press enter, and that'll track that branch. Now the next thing we want to do is actually check out that branch. So if we paste this in there, I'll show you guys, but sudo git checkout, and we're gonna check out the Moodle 39 stable. So let's press enter, and it'll take a second, it'll update, you know what I'm saying, and then your branch is up to date, you know what I'm saying, with the latest version of Moodle. Now that we're tracking the right branch, let's go down and copy that directory over to our Apache directory. That way we can host the site. So this is pretty much the command. The default location is var www /HTML, and under there we'll put the Moodle directory, which is fine. So let's press enter, boom, and that'll copy everything over to that location. And I could have typed cd just to, you know, go back, but I just typed out the full path to the Moodle directory, and that's where we're copying it to. Now for Moodle to work, it needs a data directory, and it has to be separate from the main Moodle directory. So based on the documentation, you can put the Moodle data directory underneath var. So it's just 2 steps above, you know, where the Apache location is, and we'll change permissions so we can actually write to it and change ownership of that directory as well. So under var, there'll be you should create a Moodle data directory, and this is needed during the install. This is where a lot of the data is actually stored for the website. And now it does write stuff to a database, so that's part of the steps as well. I just wanted to let you guys know that that is another spot where Moodle needs to store data. So let's change the ownership of that directory right fast. So that's sudo chown, you know, -r, capital R. So that means anything underneath it will have that same permissions or ownership that we're changing it to. So let's press enter. That'll change the ownership of that directory to www-data, which is needed by the web server. And now let's change the permissions, and I'm gonna just type this in, but sudo chmod and then 777, and we're only doing this temporarily because you don't want to have 777 for directories that are web facing, because someone can actually modify the files if you have it that way. So let's put var, and then we want to do the Moodle data, boom, and I'm gonna press. And one thing I forgot to put in there was the -R. So anything beneath it will have those same permissions, which is nothing in there right now, but, and I apologize, R, press enter, boom, I'm good to go. And then we also need to do that to the Moodle directory where it's being hosted. So I'm gonna just backspace off Moodle data and then go www and then HTML and then Moodle. So that Moodle directory, just press enter. So it'll change the permissions for the whole website for us. All right, so the next thing we need to set up is our MySQL database. And I'm gonna quickly run through this as well. But the first thing we need to do is secure the server. And I've showed you guys this in the past, what this is actually doing. I'm gonna just paste it in there, but we're gonna go through it. And this one is a little bit different versus if you're using MariaDB versus MySQL. The script runs a little bit different. This is that validate password portion of it. You can add that component. I'm gonna type no because I don't want it. And then I'm gonna set up my root password, and that's mainly why I'm doing this, is so I can set a root password for my MySQL server. And that's something that you want to do, but let's run through pretty much all the other questions are pretty much the same. So we could type Y for yes to remove anonymous users, disallow remote login for roots, remove test databases, yes, and reload privileges table, yes. Boom. So we're done with the script. Now let's go down and log into our SQL server or MySQL server. So sudo mysql-u, and then we want to use the root account and then -p, and this will access for that password we just added to the root account. Type that in, boom, and I'm gonna copy all the queries, but there is a little bit of a difference from just creating basic databases. They want you to have, based on documentation, they want you to have some character sets, and just, you know, different setups for the database. So let's press enter there, and then also we need to create our user account. That's basically the next step. So like I said, I'll have these queries down in the description of the video, and then also let's grant the privileges. Boom, run that command, and that's basically we created that user account, and then we granted all privileges to the Moodle database for that account we just created there. And the last thing is flush the privileges and actually exit. After that, we could just type exit, boom, good to go. So our SQL database is set up. So that's pretty much it. The last step is actually going through the install from the web. So we should be able to get to it now. Let's switch over to my website or web browser, and we can go to the same IP address, but at the end of it, all you have to do is put a / and type Moodle. Boom. And that's the way it'll work if you go on and add a domain to the server. So if you add a default domain to the server, it'll be whatever your domain name. It could be a school name, whatever, and then / Moodle, and that'll actually get you to the Moodle server. Now, like I said, this is the installation portion. It's pretty simple. You want to select your language, so let's hit next. The next thing, this is actually for the web address, and it'll automatically pull, you know, based on the domain name. Right now it just has the IP address and then / Moodle, and these are the directories. Now, like I was saying, that Moodle data directory, we put it under var, so var and then Moodle data, and that's why I was saying you needed to have that directory, because that's something that it actually needs to run properly. So let's hit next. We change that. That's the only thing you need to change right there. Let's hit next, and then what you want to select is the database driver, and what we're using is MySQL. That's why I told you guys to install MySQL. They do have MariaDB, which is pretty much the same thing, but I just use MySQL based on the documentation. So let's hit next, and that will, you know, go to the database settings. So what you want to do is use that account that you created. So it's basically, the name of it is Moodle. So I named it basically the same as the database name, and then I think the password, I just put password in there. We can modify it. I mean, you want to make that strong as possible, but I'm only doing that because this server is going to be deleted once I remove this, once I finish recording this video. And then we don't have to worry about any of these other spots. This is only if you have like a remote server that you're connected to, a MySQL server. Then, you know, you will put the host name up here, but as you can see, it's on localhost, so you don't have to worry about the port, because it's all internal. So let's hit next, and that will go through and create all the tables and basically create everything you need for the site. And then right here it says Moodle modular oriented dynamic learning environment copyright notice. So that's basically what this is. All we're doing is confirming that we read the copyright. So let's hit continue, boom. And then if you look down here, this will show you all the PHP extensions that we added that were needed for the install. As you can see, everything was good. It tested, you know, good. We didn't have any issues. It says your server environment meets all minimum requirements. So just make sure it says that at the bottom, at the end, once you go through this, and you should be good to go. So let's hit continue, and this will finish the install. Now this will take a little time. This will actually go through each step in installing everything for your Moodle server, and you'll see things start populating here. I'm trying to wait and see if something, you know, pops up. You'll see it pop up after a couple minutes. So yeah, there we go. So success. Yeah, and it'll keep, you know, doing everything it needs to do to install the website. And if you look right here on the right, you can kind of see that you know, it's going up. So this page is getting longer and longer with all the stuff that is installing. So I'll be back when it actually finishes. And it just finished, and the first thing it did was it takes you all the way to the bottom of the page. So all you had to do is hit continue. As long as you got successes through all this stuff, you don't have to look at it. If it took you down to the continue, that means it did everything it needed to do. So let's hit continue, boom, and then this will actually take you to the main site. Well, actually it's going to take you to create your first admin account. So this is the admin account. You just click in here, type in a password, whatever your super secure password is you want it to be. You can also set it to force password change, you know, at the beginning. You also need to put in a email address. So I'm gonna just put in my KeepItTechie@gmail.com, boom, and then right here allow everyone that. This is just some options. You can go in and change that later on, but all the requirements are done, which have the exclamation point, the red exclamation point on it, that lets you know that it's required. So we can just scroll down to the bottom. We can update that profile information later, but as long as you got the required, which is, you know, pretty much a password and an email address, then you're good to go. It looks like we ran into a small issue. What's wrong? Oh, I forgot the password has to be a little bit more complex. So I'm gonna just throw something in there on the end of whatever I created to make it compliant. So we should be good there. And let's go back down to the bottom and hit update profile, and that should be good to go. I'm sure I met those password requirements. And it should be the last step, which is just basically setting up the site page. So let's just tab in here, and I'm gonna just put KIT for KeepItTechie test school, boom. And then the short name, you can just put something here, and I'll just put KIT, and then you can put a summary in here. This is just basically all basic information. So location information, you want to go down and set your location. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm gonna put America and then Los Angeles if I can find it. Let's see if we can find it. There we go. So Los Angeles, boom. And then manage authentication, self-registration. I'm gonna leave that disabled by default, but you can allow people to self-register to the website. And then this is the outgoing mail server, which it won't allow you to do that for some reason, but I'm gonna just type in my email address just to get past this point. So KeepItTechie@gmail.com. I'm gonna just throw that in there just to get past this step, because you most likely want to have a web server set up as well, but now it takes you to the dashboard. So this is pretty much it for our site. We have our Moodle site set up. As you can see, you know, it has that information on there, and this is somewhat of the back end. This is what administrators will see. You know, as you can see, you got your site administration tab right there, and it'll take you through and allow you to modify any and everything on the website. You can add new users, you know, you can design the pages, add logos, and all the cool stuff you could do with this actual application. But we successfully installed it. As you can see, it wasn't too difficult to do. And I recommend anybody, you know, set this up, you know, one time just to understand how to do it, because you may want to use something like this in the future, especially if you're into teaching people. If you want to set up a business where you're teaching people or selling courses or anything of that sort, this type of server will definitely benefit you to track and manage your learning platform. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, definitely leave comments down in the comment boxes below. And if you're new here, go down and hit that subscribe button. as well as the bell so you can get updates when I drop new videos. But you guys already know what it is. Keep it techie.